Thank you. (19.7) deals with the question line notice, Stock Road, Crozier Hill from Councillor Charles. Recommendation that the question line notice regarding Stock Road, Crozier Hill be an answer therefore to be received. Would you like to move that receive them? You're happy to move that way, Councillor Charles? Thank you.
I am, thank you very much.
Councillor Dutton, thank you. Any discussion? Yes, Councillor Jenkins.
I've got a couple of questions. At the same meeting like tonight, would you propose exactly the same question at agenda item 19.5 and 19.7? Isn't this an unnecessary waste of everyone's time in relation to asking the same question twice? The other question I've got is that in this question on notice, you suggest the purchase of a property so the council should negotiate with Mr and Mrs Izzo, the current owners of Lot 28 Stock Road, to purchase their property. Why would you recommend the purchase of a property by council and place it in the public arena if you haven't spoken to the property owners beforehand?
I didn't think we were allowed to mention that tonight. The confidential item or not? I don't know.
That information received is confidential.
Sorry, Richard, this is the question on notice. It's on the public agenda. It's not confidential. It's been placed here. I just want to know whether he's spoken to them. I haven't seen any.
Okay, well, I'll answer the first part of the question. The first part of the question, why did I put in two? Because I make human errors. I was impatient to get my question in. You'll see one, well, you wouldn't necessarily, but you'll see that one was Macy, one was sent in earlier, and then two questions were provided in the last document of some 30-odd pages. And so it was repeated twice. I thought it was a very good question and wanted to include it. So really, the research was already done for one, so I don't think they wasted any time in completing the next one, to be quite honest. Because obviously if you've got A, you can put A in two places, questions-wise. As regards what you just said, I have spoken, and that's why it's confidential. I have done the right thing, I believe, and I don't exactly enjoy walking in somewhere and getting abused, but I think I have a responsibility to do that. So just leave it at that at this stage.
Okay, I think we'll try and avoid that side of it at this stage and move on. If you're satisfied by your clarifications, Councillor Jenkins.
I'd like to know whether or not Councillor Charles has spoken to any other property owners in that area and suggested that council buy their land.
No, I haven't actually, but I've spoken to all the property owners in that area some time ago, as we were seen by the first report. The second report, I felt a duty to hand it on to a person to make them fully aware of what was going on, because that particular property is on the market, and so who gets it first would be a very important thing, either council or someone else. I can't say any more. I have plenty more information, but we'll leave it at that for now. I can't say any more. Sorry, it's confidential.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, Graham.
It's just clarifying this second issue that we're talking about at the moment, and Councillor Glasbrook raised it with me late last week about whether it was a confidential matter or not. Just to clarify that in the submission put in by Councillor Charles, he did say that the matter be debated in open council, which is why I put it in the open part of the council agenda. The only request he had is that we started talking about facts and figures, we go into confidence. So no one has breached any confidence at this stage with regard to the discussions that has been had thus far.
Thank you.
Thank you. In that case, then, I wonder if Councillor Charles can answer my question, which is why would you recommend the purchase of a property by council and place it in the public arena if you haven't spoken to the property owners beforehand?
I did speak to the property owners beforehand, hence the reason for now the confidential thrown on the rest of the information. I spoke to him and walked onto his property for the second time only. On Thursday, I did so to give him the document that you have received and read thoroughly, which states that his property is 90%, the entire property is 90% on the floodplain. That's the lot. His letterbox remains out of the floodplain. So he's in an awkward situation. The next buyer would be a little bit reluctant to purchase on the floodplain, regardless of finished floor levels, regardless of any other arrangement at all. It would devalue his property. So I figured, since 90% of it is floodplain and meant to be reserved, then if we purchased it, or maybe we get him out of a hole, and we would have a lot of our reserve back that should have been there vested in the community, for the community, with walking trails, bike trails, flora and fauna, etc.
Just a point of clarification. Councillor Charles, if you went and saw a property owner and provided them with information that's not correct, that's still being debated in relation to this, or perhaps Graham Maxwell could answer this, is that putting the council at some risk that you may be devaluing somebody's property if they're trying to sell their house and you're suggesting to them and in the public arena that it's on a floodplain and that there's been maladministration occur? I mean, I think this is a really serious thing that Councillor Charles may be doing. Where does the council stand legally in relation to that? My question is to Graham Maxwell.
Graham, can you come in?
Well, I would say that there are significant risks in what Councillor Charles has done. Firstly, because I don't believe it's been proven beyond doubt his claims that 90% of the property are in the floodplain. Certainly there is some opinion in that regard. There's contradictory opinion in other circles. That is why we've relied upon independent parties such as the Ombudsman and others to look at this issue and give us their feedback.
Thank you. I think you've had enough saying that close debate on this one. I think we'll call it that and wait for information forthcoming. Everybody understand the recommendation? All those in favour? Thank you, that's carried. And just on that way, are you taking up the cause for everyone that lives in Adelaide on the floodplain?
That's a frivolous question, isn't it?
Frivolous, yes.
Frivolous.
Next item is 19.8, question on notice, legal advice from Councillor Charles. Recommendation that question taken on notice from Councillor Charles at the Council meeting 23rd of January 2017 regarding the cost of legal advice and the answer thereto be received. Someone happy to move that way? Councillor Charles, happy to move that way? Thank you. Sorry, did you want to comment?
No, sorry, just didn't see it. I think you saw my hand.
Thank you. Secretary Councillor Hales, thank you. Open to discussion. Yes, Councillor Jenkins.
Just for those people who maybe don't have an agenda and they're listening from home, I'll just read out the answer. So the question was the cost of legal advice in relation to some of the questions that Councillor Charles asked in January, the questions without notice. And the cost of advice was at that time $5,685.90. I would hate to think the cost of the advice and the cost of staff preparing the other questions for tonight in relation to that. So I think that, the earlier motion about these questions going straight to the Ombudsman for independent review is very important.
Thank you. No other comment? Do you want to close the argument? Thank you, Councillor Charles.
That's pretty well riveting late night television that we're providing. Yes, look, I'm just thinking if anybody would be possibly watching us, then I probably need to make comment there. There was no need for legal advice. There was just a need to answer the questions that I put lawfully to the council. The legal advice was, in my opinion, an effort to gag me, and we've seen evidence of that, or I see quite clear evidence of that.
If you've got evidence of any wrongdoing...
I'm not saying it's wrongdoing. I'm not saying that at all.
Well, don't make,
There was
don't make
a reluctance quite clearly demonstrated, and it's demonstrated in written word. Thank you.
We'll move on.
This has been a South Coast Television production.